Oh, welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast on a Monday. Welcome back from the weekend. And it is a Mailbag Monday where all four of us are together here to begin the week, along with Derek Bodner, Kyle Newbeck, I'm Devon Givens. Bree is producing, as always, the best president of basketball operations. All of you in the chat, thank you for joining us. We hope you again had a fantastic weekend as we get closer and closer to the NBA draft. We are still less than 2 weeks away. We're inching closer. What are we, like 16 days away now? 16 days, I think it is, as we get ready for that first round on that Wednesday with the Sixers, at least right now, still picking at number 3. But today is a Mailbag Monday. I'm sure we'll talk about the draft and the Sixers and what they do at 3. We're certainly going to talk about the draft. We'll get into so many other things. We'll update you on the NBA Finals and give our thoughts on the first 2 games after the 2 in Oklahoma City, now shifting to Indianapolis. But as we start off, Kyle, good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to actually be here after issues that are still ongoing that we don't have to get into on this show. But good to be able to just think about basketball and not shenanigans within the city of Philadelphia and car insurance and other things. So let's get back to the real issues, like arguing about Ace Bailey and draft prospects.
Yes, let's do that.
How was your weekend?
It was good. It was a little under the weather this weekend, but I'm cool, though. I'm cool. How about you?
Mine was pretty terrible, actually. I had a very annoying fight with a internet service provider, which I will not name on the air, but has kept me on combination of support and troubleshooting for pretty much everything from Saturday night until this very moment.
Boy, we're all having a great time around here. The Cranky Old Men podcast right now.
Bree, did you have a better weekend than all of us?
I had a great weekend. I went to Gov Ball, so it was awesome.
There we go.
Cool. That's what we want to hear. All right, we'll take that one. We'll all have good weeks. How about that? And we started off on the Mailbag Monday here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. And with that, Bree, let's get to the very first question as we get things underway from Garbanzo. Feels like the talk about Carter Bryant is similar to Mikal back in 2018. Liked a lot by analysts, quote-unquote safe pick, true 3-and-D wing, fits with every team, etc. This archetype may be the hardest to find in the NBA, but often devalued in the draft because of the lower ceiling. If Bryant goes late lottery or after, what's the likelihood we look back at him as the steal of the draft? And then there's a bonus question of where does Mikal go in the 2018 redraft? All right, Derek, Carter Bryant.
Well, I think I'd push back on the notion that players of that archetype are devalued. In fact, I think they're one of the archetypes that we tend to reach for the most. I actually mentioned this on our, I forget if it was Friday's show maybe, but my former colleague Mike O'Connor has frequently stated that those 3-and-D players, a lot of times we call them 3-and-D because they don't have like the offensive skill set to do anything on offense other than catch and shoot. And you end up missing on both the 3-point shooting and the defense because those are 2 of the skills that are toughest to project. So I think we end up, like I said, missing on that. I don't want to say missing on that because we miss on every archetype. But I think we end up valuing that archetype a lot, end up drafting guys who maybe don't have a skill level we necessarily believe in. And because of that, there's just not much margin for error. But I think just the scarcity of players who can truly defend their position or defend multiple positions and make from the perimeter is very valued. So I don't think that we goes undervalued at all. You know, Mikal is different because, you know, he came out after his junior year. Mm-hmm. And I think because of that, like if you would have scouted him as a freshman, Devon, I'm pretty sure we had this conversation. At one point, he asked me, like, you know, where do we have him grade? And we're like borderline late first round, something like that. He grew a lot. And like maybe we were right, maybe we were wrong, who knows? But he grew a lot from his freshman year. When what was he having? Like 6, pretty similar to Carter Bryant,
bench,
actually.
Yeah, about 6-7 points a game.
He grew a lot during his next 2 years. And because of that, he worked his way into being a lottery prospect. Probably should have been higher, should have been a top 10 prospect. It would be interesting to see what Carter Bryant would do if he had 2 more years to refine his game. Now, whether or not, you know, if you take those 2 years and you don't make that leap that Mikal made, well, then you're just a 21-year-old who hasn't proven enough skill. So you have to actually take that opportunity to improve. But it is, you know, you are projecting more with Carter Bryant. And because of that, I think it's a little bit more difficult, obviously. I do think, by and large, if that shot is true, and I think it's pretty true, And if that defense is legitimate, and I certainly think it's legitimate, yeah, I think I mentioned on our last show, like he's a borderline top 10 pick for me. I do view him a little bit. Now look, McHale didn't just improve those 2 years between his freshman and junior year. He then improved exponentially between that and where he is today. I don't necessarily like that is a high end outcome for players of that archetype and players who average, 6 and 3 as a freshman. Certainly most of them will not hit that high of a level. So I'm not expecting Carter Bryant to make that leap either, but I do think I value him quite a bit because I think that archetype is really tough to get and really easy to put on pretty much every team.
Yeah, to your point, Derek, I think it's the other way, right? I think Carter Bryant, in my estimation, might get taken much higher than if you're just judging on like current production and what we can say based on what we see today. He's going to get taken way higher than his production certainly says, right? Because this is such a coveted archetype. It's a big-bodied guy who can defend multiple positions, rebound, make threes. Like every team could use one of those guys. And you get into the part of the draft where you say, you know what? We're not just saying best player available. We're not just saying what's the highest possible ceiling this guy can have. We need safety. We need stability. We need some kind of guaranteed production, whether it's on the defensive end or the spot up shooting. And I'm actually I'd be a little nervous if I was a team taking Carter Bryant in the top 10, right? I think he's somebody that if he had stayed in the range that maybe he was in earlier in this cycle, somewhere 15 to 25, I think at that point you're like, yeah, that's the range that makes sense for a guy who didn't show much, can't really take guys off the dribble, isn't a playmaker for other, like is a pure play finisher and a good defensive prospect. Like I think that's fair. Once you try to start putting him into, top 10 type conversations, and I've seen him getting mocked as high as like 8. Now, whether he actually goes there, I don't know. That requires a lot of belief that he's going to make pretty significant strides as a creator or that he's going to be such a special defensive player that he really only needs a consistent 3-point shot. And I don't know, like I like him. I think he's a good player. I don't have a lot of fear that he's going to jump to this next level and just be a complete bust. But guy played 19 minutes a game, scored 6 points a game, and like really had a scaled down role the entire year. And you talk to some people who scouted him late in high school. He did also have a rep at times in high school as like, this is a flashes guy. This is not a guy who is every night you just turn to him and he delivers, right? And some of that is that he's young. Some of that is that he's got to realize that potential. But I think it's an example a little bit of cart before the horse because that archetype is as coveted as it is.
But when they look at and they look forward to the 3-and-D question in general, the tools guys, they often try to project out and they want to be the ones that find the guy that is going to be the next one, of course. And he fits the bill, especially when you have seen it for many years where you have, let's say even like Devin Booker comes off the bench, but they take him in the lottery because of his shooting and what he can do. Or you find someone like Dante DiVincenzo, even though he performed on that stage and put up big numbers and had a longer career, guys coming off the bench that you just project out are going to be pretty good basketball players. And with him, with that body, that size, most teams feel like they can, like we always talk about in the pros when the players leave their respective teams, they think that they can fix whatever is missing in that particular player. So if Carter Bryant is missing the outside shot, we get him into our program, we're going to fix that. We can fix that. And from the background that they've gotten from their interviews and their conversations is that they can absolutely do that. And I, like you said, you feel the way you do. I'm more along the lines of Derek, where we are right in this conversation of, I think he's going to be pretty darn good. I've looked at him and I
don't think he's going to be bad. I think like if you take him in the top 10, you have to have some degree
I don't think any of us
confidence
that like top 10.
But those are the conversations he's in.
Yeah.
So
like even when we did our mock draft, I think we had him at 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. But that was just based off of how our board was falling, having him at 11. And even looking at, I think it was Houston maybe. So having him at Houston because it's a team that they can take a chance on something like that because of what they already have and where they already are as a playoff team. So looking at him, I said to Derek the other day when we were talking about him, Kyle, on Friday, and I think we did just in general. Where I was like, if he turns out to be OG Anunoby-like, that's a pretty good player, even if you pick him in the top 10 or just in the lottery in general in that 14. But if you go 8 through 10 and he's picked somewhere along there because of that 6'9" frame, if his shot does improve the way that he does, haven't seen it much of putting the ball on the floor and creating his own shot. But if he dedicates himself and he's going to be a third, fourth option on your basketball team, that might work out. But he looks like he has to go in the right situation too. Like we keep saying about certain players. Yeah. Ace Bailey, Trey Johnson, et cetera. Lands in the right situation, he has a really good chance of being pretty good.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about a guy who really just cannot take people off the dribble, I think people underrate. It's weird that we're in this place now because 3-and-D is a shorthand for this is a type of player, and I know this is valuable to a team. I think a lot of people have just forgotten that dribbling the basketball is an important thing that you have to do as a basketball player. I think people also forget that passing the basketball is an important thing that you have to do now he's not a non-passer. He's just, again, he's a low volume player. So I don't read too much into that. Like he makes okay reads and whatnot, but you're talking about a guy who is going to have to be a high level 3-point shooter because he doesn't really do anything else there. And so I wonder if, because this archetype is so valued, guys get pushed down the board who are multi-skilled players or, potential offensive drivers, right? Like, I don't even like Yakachonis that much, the more that we dove into his tape and everything. But, like, he's somebody that if things break right, he runs the offense versus a guy who maybe Carter Bryant could be like an OG Anunoby type defensive player, but that's a really high bar to clear. Like OG is one of the 5 most switchable defenders in the entire league. And so like there are a lot of outcomes for this type of player that are okay, but I certainly understand teams that are willing to take what I think are bigger swings over
on that 3-point shot. I at least right now, my guess would they find what they do with a lot of these guys that can't do those things that you talk about early on. We put you in the corner, hit those corner threes first, and then we'll go from there and see where things play out. If you can start to knock that down, and of course they're going to have them working around the perimeter in general on that 3-point shot, but knock that one down, still play the defense that we ask of you to play, and gradually grow as a player in this league. What is he, 19 years old? So 19 years old, so he still has, in whatever program he's going to be in, whatever organization he's going to be in, the player development, that's something they'll figure out. But, yeah, man, he might go a lot higher than a lot of people expect because of just the tools in general and what this league is with that 3-and-D.
Well, so building off of this, what we headline the show with, based on where we think people are going to go in this draft on mocks, intel, people we've talked to, who's your guy that you think that guy will be much better than his draft slot? Like if you were just saying, oh, this guy's getting taken at 15, but I think he's a top 10 player, or he's getting taken in the back half of the first.
So I don't know as much of the foreign players like you guys do. So I'll stay away from the foreign guys. I'll stay away from the foreign guys that we didn't see in college basketball because I'm going to go a foreign guy that you were on early and then things didn't work out, but we still see the tools that are there. I go with Igor Demon and say that I think he's going to be a little bit better once he gets into the NBA, has that spacing, with that size, with the ability to put the ball on the floor. Defensively, I don't know, but I think offensively, being able to run a team, landing in the right situation, because if he's going to go somewhere in that end of lottery, before the 20s, that back end of the teens, he has an opportunity to go to a pretty good squad. It could be OKC. It could be, Washington doesn't count. But that's just more opportunity to play and have the basketball in his hands.
You'll have the ball a lot.
Exactly, right. But I think that, and I don't know, man, just watching how he shoots, while it didn't necessarily translate during the college basketball season, and even just watching some of the film of what he did in some of those workouts where you just see how him shooting. Sure, you can shoot against nobody in the gym that's going to fall, but the shot looks good to me. So with all of those things offensively, I want to see how the defense translate, but I think the offensive stuff will work out for him on the pro level, especially when he's still not going to be the main guy on that end, and he can do things. We've seen a lot of players with the same type of skill set succeed in the NBA, and even with that size, I think he'll be my candidate for this question.
No, and he's fallen so much that there's probably been a little bit of an overcorrection, and I think he represents pretty decent value with how far, because he was a guy who he made a pretty significant reworking of his shot before the season, and I think once he came out in like the first 5 games he was on fire, and I think once he hit a little bit of adversity and started missing shots, I think he reverted a little bit. If that's just step 1 in a multi-year process and he does ever figure that shot out, then he could end up being worth way more than like the 16th or 18th pick.
And when you were talking about him beginning of the season, I mean, Kyle, he was like top 7.
He was shooting the lights out.
Oh yeah,
I mean, mock drafts.
That was.
He was shooting the lights out against bad competition.
He shot the crap out of the ball for a month or whatever, and we were like, all right, can't wait to see him in the Big 12.
And then he almost literally didn't make a shot after that.
Yeah. But I do want to see the space in the NBA, see if the ball on the floor, that type of stuff, and then confidence just grows.
I think Jokic is a little bit like that too, where he really struggled down the stretch. Like his shot really fell off the cliff. Part of that, he was injured and he was trying to fight through that. But are we overreacting a little bit to low sample size shooting variance?
And end of the season, like fresh in your mind.
Right, exactly. Because if that step back jumper with Jokic is legitimate, and I actually think it is, if you were going to rank like the percentiles of believers in his shot, I'm probably like an 80th percentile on his shot. Even with the other flaws in his game, he could end up being very easily worth a top 10 pick. Like, no questions asked.
I think the guy for me is Traore, because I think
I have to watch more of him.
He's one of the foreign guys I have watched a good bit of. I think when you're talking about a guy with real playmaking skill and good size at his age, was well regarded. Like coming into the year, he was a top 5-ish talent. And mostly it's been, he didn't shoot the ball well. Well, most of these guys didn't shoot the ball well, right? And so I think his combination of his feel, I really like. Now, you want to talk about bad percentages. Do not look at his stats that are available because the shooting is bad. But I think the passing vision is absolutely that. You're talking about a guy who's averaging over 5 assists a game in a pro league as an 18, 19-year-old. So I really like him in that. If he goes 20 to 30, I like him. The other guy, and I've brought him up on the show a lot for me, is Jace Richardson. I have kind of walked away from most of small guards at his size. I just don't believe in general. I've fallen for it too many times. Like Sharif Cooper was one recently where people are like, man, look at all this skill and the numbers and all that. And it's like, he's just too little. And Richardson is barely 6 foot, right? He's a little over 6 foot, barefoot, decent-ish wingspan, I think, but high feel guy that now is being mocked in, the back 10 of the first round. And I think if he ends up somewhere like Orlando, that to me is one of my favorite fits in the whole draft. You put his shot making, secondary playmaking, all that next to Suggs and Wagner and
You've been
Paolo,
saying that for a while, yeah.
He is really going to cook there. So he's somebody I'm keeping an eye on as well.
Who's yours?
Cedric Howard. In part because there is so much, I think, uncertainty given how little he's played because of the injury. He played 2 years at a D3 school, transferred, played 6 games, and had a season-ending injury. That I think if he had a chance to really put a full season of work against a D1 program with his measurables and his skill level, I think he would be a pretty surefire lottery pick. Doesn't mean he's going to end up working out. It just means I think there'd be a lot more intrigue. I think the uncertainty is weighing him down a lot.
Okay. All right.
And by, in the past, it was weighing him down where I don't think he wasn't mocked as a first round pick for a while. Now I think most people have him going in at least the 20s, but even potentially higher than that, but I still think he's a little low.
A couple names mentioned in the chat. Better Call B-Ball Paul says Rasheer Fleming and Drake Powell. And also Mellow 3 Point says Thomas Sorber as a guy.
Sorber's one I think that if I were to just bet on defensive stuff, right, he's pretty clearly in a drop role only. But his wingspan, his timing, I think his passing, frankly, as a big man is pretty good. So it's a weird combination of skills that he's got, but that's one I'd keep my eye on him.
I think when we did the mock, I put him in with the Pacers because of the backup situation there. If Miles Turner also doesn't stay, how does that whole thing play out for the Eastern Conference champs? All right, we come back. We'll finish up with some more questions here, as we have quite a few. And also, we have to answer the back end of the other question from the first one, which was, where do you redraft Cale in the 2018
20 minutes
draft?
in, we got one question down.
I know. We'll do all that when we get back right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. And folks, I want to tell you about Parks Casino and good people at Parks Casino. Been telling you that it's very easy to get to if you want to go and just make a trek to go have a little good time there, right off of the exit I-95 and the PA Turnpike, the Street Road exit. So if it's very easy to get to hit the Excite Center. But if you can't make it and you're at work, you're busy, whatever you may be doing, and you just want to hit the online casino, that's available to you. That's one thing. Another thing I love about Parks Casino is the BetParks app. All the games you love to play in person at Parks Casino, like pop culture slots, roulette, cards, dice games, and more, can also be played on the BetParks app. Parks Online Casino has the games you love, whether you're at home or on the go. So I've been on the app for a few years just because doing the shows from there. I've been there for a while. They asked you to check it out. I checked it out. And it's pretty easy. It's pretty fun to navigate on your phone. Very easy. Just click, of course, the app, go right to it, and you'll have an opportunity to sit back and just play the games that you love on your phone like you do in person. Here's what you do. Just download the BetParks app and create an account today. Receive an offer you can't pass up. New users are eligible to receive up to $1,000 back if you are down in the first 24 hours after signing up. BetParks Online Casino is available to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Michigan residents. Terms and conditions apply. Parks Casino, this is how you win. You must be 21 and over. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And guys, just like your favorite team needs home court advantage, your home needs home floor advantage. Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. You've been to a big box store. If you're a homeowner, maybe they came to your parents' house. I don't know. But when you go to that big box store to try to get your flooring taken care of, it's like walking through a giant hedge maze, right? One thing's here, one thing's there. This person who's supposed to be helping you out, who's supposedly their expert in store, yesterday they were working on light bulbs. The next day they're working on gardening. They are not an expert in the way that you need them to be when you're installing a new floor. Empire Today lives and breathes flooring, so they'll be with you every step of the way. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home. Pick the right flooring, the right colors for your space. You can see how it looks with your furniture in your house, not in some big store where then you have to guess and then you got to haul everything home. It's no fun. With Empire Today, you get clear, upfront, all-inclusive pricing, plus you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. Some things are just better at home. PHLY listeners can receive a $350 discount when using the code PHLY. You heard right, a $350 discount with the code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast on a Mailbag Monday. Derek, Kyle, Devon, Bree, we're all here with you, hanging out on this Monday. Redraft, Kyle, real fast. 2018 draft, that's the Shai Gilgeous, Luka Doncic, Trae Young.
So the short list is Luka, Jaren Jackson Jr., Trae, Mikal, Shai, and Brunson. Those are the 6 guys.
Yep.
Anthony Simons, I think, would be probably the 7th guy in that group. So I think Luka and Shai are the clear one, too.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that,
has Jalen passed Jaren Jackson Jr.? I think he might have.
Yeah, I think Brunson.
I think he has.
Now, the only argument would be the whole, small guard thing and how hard it is. But I think Brunson is probably the 4th guy there or third guy there. And then probably Jaren Jackson, Mikal, because I would put Mikal over Trae Young, but that's a team building philosophy thing.
So it's top 6.
4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Top 6. He's top 6.
Or five or six.
Yeah.
The spicy one is, would you put Shea over Luka given the last 2 years? Because Luka, obviously, like Shea, as far as individual performance, has been right there. Luka made the finals run last year. You're worried about Luka and the conditioning stuff moving forward?
This is where, like, I think team context needs to be brought up a little bit.
Sure.
Like, Luka on OKC would be absolutely incredible. They wouldn't be the same team, obviously, because they wouldn't be as good of a defensive team. But I think Luka is. I would still probably go Luka, but I think it's close.
I want. You know what? I might go Shea.
Now, if you're asking me for the next 10 years, I think you have a strong case for Shea.
Oh yeah, well, if we're redrafting, we're definitely, because we're not doing it like, oh, let's go back to 2018. We're doing it right now.
Yeah. And plus the MVP, for whatever reason, well, Jokic is a big reason why Doncic does not have an MVP. Embiid also, but Shea did get one. He jumped over Jokic, whether you agree with it or not. He has one, and he's in the finals just like Luka was. So I would give it to Shea right now, and Luka at 2. I would
certainly at least hear the argument.
Yeah,
I think I might lean on Luka's body of work is super impressive. It's just, what condition is he going to be moving forward? We don't know, but I still think I bet on him for sure.
For sure. All right, let's get to the second question. We're 27 minutes in. Second question, but it was a good question, so we answered it as long as we did. Bree, let's get the second question up here from Dr. Philly. What is the 99th percentile outcome for Justin Edwards? Seems like his biggest issue is his handle at this point.
It's a good question.
Thank you, Dr. Philly.
I mean, the handle on the first step, it's sometimes hard to pick between the two because they obviously relate a lot together. But I also think the first step shows up on defense. Like, I don't think he's super quick out of his breaks. It's a good question. What do you guys think?
Well, so high-end outcome would be he's a 40% three-point shooter, right? And that's kind of what you would hope for. Defensively, I think it's can guard most, if not all, 2s and 3s, mostly the 3s. I don't think he's big enough to guard 4s.
Not yet, but I think if you're talking like 99th percentile outcome, like you would certainly include adding strength to that.
Yeah, add some strength.
What's his wingspan? And
but then there are also 4s too that are Paul George. Tobias Harris, 4s.
I'm talking mostly about, like, I think, excuse me, I think the big 3s he could get to. I think, like, the true 4s, like the bully ball players, and there aren't tons of those, right? There's not a lot of Julius Randles. There's not a lot of, there's
Aaron
only one
Gordon,
Giannis type player.
Aaron Gordon, he would have trouble there.
The traditional power forward is not super common, so I don't really care about it. I'm just saying if you were shooting for the moon, it's like he can do 2 through 4.
Yeah.
I think more realistically, 2s and 3s, he's checking.
Sure.
And so in a Sixers context, that could be him and Grimes can pass those assignments off between one another. And then PG is more the roamer and on the bigger guy. Yeah, so offense is tough, right? Because he has, certainly in high school, he was a high level offensive player. He struggled at Kentucky. We saw some flashes this year of the individual shot creation, like getting to the mid range a little bit, hitting some of those quick runners and floaters after he beats the initial closeout. I think he could be a long-term, like, very good 5th starter if everything breaks right for him. I don't know that I could get much higher than that, but I think that'd be an incredible outcome based on how they acquired him.
And that's where I was going to go, because when you had mentioned that before and we debated it, it was along those lines of, you can see him as a Jermaine Jones, Mark Ivoroni type on a starting team, not necessarily a finals team, but a starter there where you know your role, you defend, you shoot when the opportunity is there, put the ball on the floor when the opportunity is there. And when he got that extended time for the last half of the season, when he started to put the basketball on the floor, get to that pull-up range around 17, it looked like it was going to go in every time because the shot looked that good. And you've seen him make it a few times where the confidence was there, whether it was a runner or a floater or just that step back right there around 15 to 17 where it looked really, really comfortable over the defender, creating that space and getting into that good look, that good shot. And also something that I saw a few times that I liked was getting that low dribble once he got by the defender, keeping it real low, sort of a rip through where he swung the ball through on the defender and then finish at the rim, whether it was a powerful dunk that we saw a few times or just a crafty finish and getting to the free throw line that was there for him. So the quick release that we've seen, that we started to see when he got more minutes, that's there. So if he can continue to knock down that shot to get to that 40% clip and mixing in those other things in his offensive repertoire, you might have something between a fifth starter or six man at worst, maybe even seven. But that's not a bad thing, of course, when you're talking about a playoff team.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 99th percentile is probably a little higher than that, in part because, like, so much of what makes the draft tough is, like, we go back to our initial conversation, and we spent 20 minutes on it, but what's another two? When you start talking about, like, OG, he averaged, like, 4-2 his freshman year at Indiana.
And then, like, 11 points the next year, and then he
McHale was
knee
6-3. Like, trying to predict which one of these will reach, even if not their 99th percentile, like their 95th, is so impossibly tough. And it's also tough to, like, what does that actually look like? How much can he improve his body? I look it up. 6'6" without shoes, so 6'7"-ish in shoes, 6'10" wingspan. Good, not great, probably not a power forward. I think that's fair even if he bulks up. But, like, how much can you improve your ball handling? How much can he improve his burst a little bit with a little more strength and conditioning? It's really tough to say. I think he has a chance, probably even like 90th percentile outcome of being a fifth starter. Like, I think just the fact that he has that shot and you can trust his decision-making can overcome a lot. But I'm not sure I see much, like, I think getting too far above that would be tough.
On this team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially.
Yeah, no, I think he's a good fit. Like, if he reaches that 90th, 95th, we can debate exactly what. Yeah, I think there's a chance he could be a borderline starter. Yep.
Okay. All right. Good question, Justin Edwards. A lot of people like him, and we'll see where it all plays out. One of the people that you're probably looking most forward to outside of the obvious draft picks.
Sure.
But one of the people that you're probably looking.
Man, it'll be so nice to see Jared back on the floor too.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Looking forward to seeing Justin Edwards, though.
Just
the death of
a
hope.
Little bit of hope for any of us.
Yep.
Last season would have been nice.
Well, we had a little bit of hope that month run with Jared. Unfortunately, it was only a little bit of hope. I would like a little bit of hope stretched out over the entire season.
The one good part of that, though, is we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about the number 3 overall pick if Jared McCain was playing. So
they had to land at the exact pick or slot that they did.
Right.
So what a blessing that has been for all of us. Because if that didn't happen, boy, this would have been a depressing month and a half until the draft. Talking about 35th overall pick in a class where most of the guys went back to school.
Man. All right, let's get to the next question. Mix this one in. Golden Pine. Who are the prospects with the best BBIQ/feel for the game after flag, after con, after CMB?
Well, I think they were asking whether or not con would be that, right?
Yeah, I think is it con? Is it? So I think those two, con and CMB, are definitely in there.
I think Con has probably the best offensive feel for the game, and CMB has the best defensive feel for the game.
Yeah, CMB, we haven't talked about him in a bit, right? I can do my propaganda.
Go for it.
It's been a while.
Right here, right? So CMB, if you want to talk 99th percentile outcomes, his 99th percentile outcome is Draymond Green. Now, hitting a 99th percentile outcome, extraordinarily unlikely, right? But if you look at the physical size and tools, if you look at the diversity of defensive things you can do with CMB, right? Like, so South Carolina sucked last year, had almost nothing to do with Collin Murray-Boyles. Collin Murray-Boyles is being asked to blitz, to play drop, to switch, to create turnovers, to play zone, to do whatever. And in almost any look that you throw him in, he's making plays and he's making 2, 3, sometimes even 4 different rotations to get into position to make a play. And I know I remarked on this at one point sometime in the last 2 months. I was also struck by there were plays where guys threw passes in his direction and he just, like, I don't know how big his hands are. I'd have to look that up. He just, like, snares the ball out of midair with one hand. And you're like, how the hell does he have the hand-eye to do that? And so all these different instincts converge into a player who well overperformed on a team where he just had nothing else around him, right? Like they were a very bad team, were bad for basically the whole year, and he's propping them up on both ends of the floor. And so I think you see his game intelligence all over the place, including as a passer too. Like the passing numbers are more mixed, but I think you can see the makings of a guy who can be a playmaking four or like a short role player at the very least. Con, though, I agree with Derek. I think Con on offense is just you need me to be here and be a spot up guy? Okay, I'll slide into the exact right spot at the right time for the outlet pass. If you need me to be the on-ball decision maker, I can make good reads coming downhill. I know when to hit the roller on the lob. I can hit the quick connective pass. Like he just sees things developing very quickly and analyzes them quickly. When you look at the stuff that's like the high value passing, like player X created the most open shot or got somebody a dunk, Con ranks really high on that stuff while not turning the ball over. And that's generally a really good indicator of this is a high field type of player. So I think those are two good shouts. Jace Richardson would be another one.
Exactly
as
where I was
well.
going. Yep.
So if you want to do the Jace Richardson thing, feel free.
No, I mean, Jace is just like, you could tell he grew up around the game, and you could tell he just doesn't make a ton of mistakes. Like rotationally, he's sound. With the ball, he's sound. He is I don't think he's going to wow you with a stat line, but I think he's going to make and a lot of these players, although CMB's stat line is kind of wowy in a defensive production kind of way.
Yeah.
But I think, like I said, rotationally, communication, moving the ball, quick decisions. I just think he's a very solid player who doesn't make a ton of mistakes.
What is for you, Kyle? Where does CMB? What's the best landing spot for him of the lottery teams because of all the stuff that you lay out? His skill set, his defense, of course. All these teams outside of the Sixers and the Rockets, they're still trying to get somewhere. That was not included. Where do you see as the best landing spot for him for all the things that you talk about?
Well, so here's the thing, right? If you're a buyer of CMB, Philadelphia is a spot that would make a ton of sense, because to me, the ideal world for him is one where you try him at multiple spots in the front court in different contexts and see how does this work, right? So you put him, if you play him some minutes with Joel Embiid, that's playing him with a big who can shoot and stretch defenses out. And that allows him to do more of you play out of the dunker, you play more out of the mid post or, along the baseline, and you play bully ball, play with power and do things like that. And then when Joel hits the bench, we're going to play small. We'll allow CMB to play at the 5. We put 3 wing athletes next to him and play one of the smaller guards who's going to run the offense. And then you spread it out. You have him play the short roll quarterback, right? So if it's Maxey and they blitz Maxey, he's got the ball at the free throw line, maybe the 3-point line if they play up real high, and he's got a 4-on-3. And what do you do with it? He's got enough off the dribble juice in that situation to get to the rim and score. He can hit an open shooter if they collapse on him. Like that, it doesn't have to be the Sixers, but like a team that has, I think Indiana is a team, right? Where like if you play him with a Miles Turner, you can do some of the same things. And as you said earlier, we look at them as maybe a team that needs to solidify backup front court minutes between, Thomas Bryant, Tony Bradley, probably not guys you want playing in high leverage minutes. I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, like a Boston, if he was on a team like that where they have Horford and Cornette and Porzingis and a lot of these guys that open the floor up. But again, they play the double big lineups all the time. So just teams like that, right? And the thing with CMB is he's got to shoot in some capacity. It can't be the no volume or low volume and inefficient, right? And he's got to convince other teams, I should say, that they need to guard him, because we've seen it happen 1,000 times. Every single playoff run, even throughout the regular season, if you're a guy that can be ignored, teams will junk up the defense, pack the paint, whether it's against a driver, a post player, whoever. And so that's the $1 million question. Can he ever be a good enough shooter that the rest of the stuff matters? And I would say it's more likely that he will not, but everything else is great.
The only other team I'd throw out there is probably Toronto. And not because they necessarily have a big who can help, hide his limitations, but because they're, the way they've sort of like overloaded on perimeter players, they desperately need a front court player who can, cover up some of those defensive inadequacies. And when you have a need like that, you might be more willing to give him time because he does correct what you don't have, so that maybe then he can develop what he doesn't currently have. And they're a team who needs his skill set but can't necessarily hide his weakness.
Yeah, and just to be clear, no one on the show has ever advocated for taking CMB at 3. He is strictly
I'm glad you cleared that up
to the back of the lottery guy that you would take a swing on. It is not, under no circumstances would I or anyone else on this show take him at 3.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of fit with the roster and the personnel.
Yes, the question was just in general where he fits, and the Sixers, of course, would be a team that he would fit on. Now at 3, maybe moving back a few spots in that back end of the lottery. Well, not back end of the lottery, but somewhere mid-lottery that you would consider something like that. Derek and I talked a little bit about it. We brought Kyle up because we know about CMB, how much he likes him. For the New Orleans trade, if it's Herb Jones and then you're at 7, all the others that you really like, the offensive guys, are gone. And then you say, okay, let's just get some more defense, and you have Herb Jones and CMB potentially at 7.
And look, he is a good offensive player, but he's a good offensive player in a way that you're probably not going to build the team around him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be a lot tougher to scale at the NBA level, right? There's a lot of post power finishing around the rim. So like those types of players do not get the runway anymore where, 15 years ago, maybe even longer at this point, you would have been like, oh man, yeah, that's the guy. Who cares if he can shoot? But that's just not the NBA that we're watching anymore.
No, we still have a lot of questions to get to. We're going to take a quick pause. We come right back, and we get right back to the questions right here on the Mailbag Monday on the PHLY Sixers podcast. And I need to talk to you about, look, I was talking to one of my best friends yesterday, and even though I was a little under the weather, he was talking to me. He was like, yo, when are you ready to get back on the court? I was invited to play basketball, and I was like, you know what? I think I need to go ahead and do that and start to just get back out there. Sorry, Nona. Sorry, Al. I'm going to do it. And the reason why I can do it is because of my good people at Rothman Orthopedics. And whether you're like me and it's a major injury like my Achilles or my ACL, or something simply a nagging injury, an old injury, or something that did happen while you were playing basketball, tennis, running, whatever it might be, and you need to get it checked out, those aches and pains from those pickup games, you got to get them checked out, and Rothman Orthopedics is the best place for you to do that. Getting you back to the summer game is their mission. And I would like for you to get back to doing just that. Rothman's 180-plus fellowship-trained physicians specialize in specific areas of the bodies and a multitude of orthopedic services, including hip, knee, spine, shoulder, and elbow. How about the foot and ankle, hand, wrist, sports medicine, physical medicine, and rehabilitation, orthopedic oncology, and trauma fracture care as well. Year over year, Rothman consistently performs among the highest volume of hip, knee, shoulder, and ankle replacements in the country at over 60,000. So I love Rothman. They've helped me out tremendously of getting back to where I am and what I'm able to do, and to take that phone call and happily say, yeah, I think I'll be there. And let's play some basketball. Let's get to it. I just got to get it out of my head that my other Achilles is not going to pop. I'll be good. So in order to do that, I needed to go to Rothman, and you should too if you are indeed needing some help. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to book your appointment today and get back to doing what you love, pain-free.
We also want to tell you about TrueMark Financial because summer's here, which means the kids are out and about, hanging with friends, maybe even picking up a summer job. It's a perfect time to set them up with something that teaches real-world money skills and gives them a little freedom. Greenlight debit card and money app. If you're a TrueMark Financial member, you can get a free Greenlight account for your kids or teens. It's a simple way for them to manage their own money, whether it's from a job, allowance, or birthday cash. They'll get their own debit card, can get savings goals, track spending, and learn how to budget, all while you stay in a loop from your phone. You're still in control, but they get to learn how money really works in everyday life. So before the summer rush kicks in, this is a great way to help your kids build smart money habits that'll stick with them long after the season's over. Head over to TrueMark.com/greenlight to get all the details and sign up today. Don't miss the chance to set your kids up for financial success.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast. Got to tell you that the PHLY Liberty Open, the second annual Liberty Open, is happening on Saturday. Saturday, Valley Brook Country Club from 2 to 7. We're going to hang out with everybody from the PHLY staff. Come through with us to hang out and play some golf on Saturday at Valley Brook Country Club in Blackwood, New Jersey. It's a great place. And our event is presented by Xfinity. So Xfinity has been all over the place talking about it because of the new change of the name for the arena in South Philly. Well, it's sponsored by Xfinity for us as well. So hopefully go check out allphly.com. You must be a diehard member to sign up. The foursomes, of course, from Fran Duffy and Jamie Lynch. Also having Tyler Zulli and his dad. They're looking for 2 more to add to it. Go ahead, sign up, whether it's a foursome, an individual that you're signing up for, or you want to sponsor a whole as well. You can do that. Also,
you can sponsor my home also if you want to just send me money in the mail.
That's true too. You can do that, and you can send super chats to do that for Kyle as well. And make sure you also hang out with us post round for the 2 hours of the drinking, the food. Should be a good time on Saturday for our PHLY second annual Liberty Open. Hope to see you all this weekend as we hang out. All right, let's get to the next question there, Bree. See what we have here. Rich with a bunch of stuff thereafter.
Says the game is about buckets.
So what are your thoughts on the Sixers doing a Rob Dillingham type trade from last year? Sixers using the Clippers pick to move back to secure someone like CMB or Carter Bryant.
I would say this. I would find it, one, very unlikely that they would want to develop another top 10 type pick, lottery pick this year while they're still trying to sort out what the hell is this team going to be moving forward, right? So let's say...
So Dillingham they got the pick for like a pick way out in the future.
They traded like a 2030
and another swap. I think there's a swap right now.
Yeah, I'd have to. Basically, he's just asking if they trade the Clippers pick and let's say they traded 35. I don't think that gets you to. How high do you think that would get you? The Clippers pick and 35.
I mean, if there's a team that's just not in love with this draft, I could see them trying to bet on the Clippers. Like, right around 10, maybe. I could see that.
Let's, for the sake of argument, say the Sixers took Trey Johnson at 3rd. And so that's a pick that is not a clear-cut, like, positional fill, right? You have to figure out, you're going to have to juggle roles, juggle minutes, and all that. And then you get the 10th pick and you take CMB, right? At that point, there are a lot of balls in the air, right? You're trying to figure out what position Collin Murray-Boyles can play. You're trying to figure out how Trey Johnson fits in, who's being prioritized in the conglomerate of Maxey, McCain, Johnson, Grimes. How do these players work around Joel Embiid? How do they work without Joel Embiid? Like, I think for that reason, I don't see a world where they're like, we need to get another high value pick in this draft because it puts some immediate stress on. We have to develop this guy, but they also have to be good enough to help us win when you don't even know if you're keeping all these players and all this stuff that's there over the long term. Because like I've said many times, Maxey McCain is an on paper fit that just in a lot of ways does not make sense, right? In an ideal world, if you had Tyrese Maxey, you wouldn't put Jared McCain next to him and vice versa. Now that's who they have, right? And they're 2 talented players. Maybe they figure it out. Maybe that the team can put enough defensive help around them that it works. I just think when that's such a question mark and the 3rd pick you make could also be a question mark, to add another high priority developmental guy into that mix is going to add a lot of complications. And I don't think it's the sort of move they would use the 2028 pick on.
I also think there's a part of Daryl that wants to remain flexible for a trade. And it's one thing like, if you draft someone and they're like Jared McCain, they could end up being worth way more in 4 months than they were when you select them. Most draft picks lose trade value for probably the first 2 years of their NBA career. And most of them probably just lose value. It's always like, what the future draft picks are like, well, what could be behind that door? And it's always a little bit of that allure of the unknown and allure of controlling your own future. And unless you have somebody who is really high on that draft pick, like I said, short term, that's going to lose value than it was as a theoretical draft pick. So I think there's probably, unless Daryl's just in love with the prospect, which falling in love with the prospect, the way analytical people tend to think, you don't normally fall in love with a 10th pick. You understand that there is inherent risk in that. I would be a little surprised if they want to Kyle's point, walk away with two rookies from this class, two high value, or specifically giving up one of their better trade chips to get a second rookie. I would be a little surprised, but you never really know, I guess.
Spurs got the 2031 first round unprotected back, and the 2030 pick swap, which is top 1 protected.
Top one protected is such a funny concept.
Yes, top 1 protected for Rob Dillingham at the 8th.
How many of those get traded? Top 1 protected pick.
Let's get to good question. Thank you for the question there. Appreciate it. Let's get to the next question here, Bree, that we have. And then we'll get to some super chats as well. TK76__ from this year's playoffs. When you look at how teams are going to react in terms of team building, what do you think will be the league overreaction, and what will be appropriate course correction based on the success of the top teams?
This is something that Kyle's brought up a lot, so I want to give him credit before I say it. It's also something that TK brought up in the chat in the Discord right after he asked the questions. I think the takeaway is that you don't pigeonhole yourself into a play style or a archetype of stars to build around. Like, these are teams built completely differently. They both like to get up in transition, but that's really about it. You look at the talent you have, you look at the talent that you have the possibility to acquire, and you try to complement them. To Kyle's point, if you were just starting something out, you would never go like, well, Jared McCain's the obvious guy to put next to Tyrese Maxey. In fact, we said that last year at the time of the draft. We still have people killing us for it. The overall concept is true, but Jared McCain has developed more than most of us thought. Really pretty much anyone thought, or wouldn't have gone 16th. Now you have to try to figure out a way to make that work. Same thing with the opportunities you have. The Sixers are not in a spot where they can necessarily dictate the opportunities like a team with a ton of assets like OKC can. So you get the talent however you can get talent, and you try to find a way to make that work in today's league, in today's play style, and specifically in today's collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah, so I'll build off of that and say I think the overreaction is people are going to try to go all in on depth, and stars will become undervalued. I think that's the very obvious. It's like, oh, look at Indiana. They have Tyrese Halliburton and Siakam, and then a bunch of good, maybe not great players. And Oklahoma City has their young core, but they also are, 9 and 10 deep. So we just need to build a 2-star team or even a 1-star team with high-end role. And it's, if you can do that and you have a billion picks and you are patient and you're not so concerned with,
and the league's patient.
Yeah. Patience is very important here, obviously. I think that's fine. I don't think that's a bad team building thing, but I do think with how this playoffs has played out, with the concerns that are happening with second apron and some of the team building stuff with, oh, this guy's making, X amount of dollars. We just can't pay him that. And we can't build a roster this way. I tend to think that the high end of the market will start getting squeezed at some point. I don't know that that'll be this summer. I don't even know if it'll be the next 2 to 3 years. There will be a point, though, where stars who have traditionally driven this league, especially at the highest levels, will return star level value or even more in the future. So I would say just don't over-index. That's the thing, right? You can't look at one playoff run and make giant declarations about here's what's going to happen, right? Because I'll use a team that never ended up winning a title. 2012, the Thunder get to the finals, right? It's Kevin Durant, it's Russell Westbrook, it's James Harden, Serge Ibaka. And there's that famous shot of them together as the series is wrapping up, and they're all talking to one another like, yeah, we're going to be back. They never made it back, right? And one, they never had a chance to. They trade James Harden, but like, you don't know how quickly the window is going to shut, whether it's for financial stuff, guys wanting more touches, injuries, any number of reasons teams can fall apart. So you can't just run your own race. Build the best team you can, build the most flexible team that you can, stock up on draft picks, treat them as premium currency and not just something to be attached to any trade. Eventually you can build a good team.
Yeah, man. Look at Joel. Look at Ben.
Yeah.
Look at Markelle Fultz, how it was supposed to be, and then it wasn't.
You had to.
I'm sorry.
Had to make it sad.
Well, look, but they're a great example, right? Because 2018, you're coming off of, it's the first year those two play together. You win 50 games. You go to the second round of the playoffs. And even the McHale trade, while it was silly when it's like at least there was a forward-looking angle to it, right? We're adding an extra pick, and we're taking a flyer on a player that we like. The evaluation was obviously off. But you're adding a pick because we need to just keep replenishing the amount of picks that we have. An opportunity could come up in the future where we need this. The issue is you cashed it in on Tobias Harris, right? It's like that was the problem. Yeah. So those shortcut type moves where you keep upping the ante. Right after that, we're signing Al Horford. We're slapping $100 million on the Joel Embiid backup problem, and we're just signing Tobias
that knife
for $180
in there and
million.
twisted, man.
You trade up for Fultz, and although that pick itself wasn't a super valuable player, it's at least another first round pick that you could have done something with. You could have drafted a player. You could have traded it in a different trade. So patience is very important. Everyone wants to win at this second, and I understand why people are antsy here, but a little bit of discretion would help.
Real quick before we get to overtime, want to remind you once again about the ball knowers. Do you think you know ball? We've got another ball knower bonus that we want to tell you about. Basically, each game in the NBA Finals, so before Wednesday's game, we will take another look. All you have to do is pick the winner of the game, and you can win a gift card for the PHLY merch store if you make that pick correctly. First, click the link in the description below, and then make your pick. Place an order in ALLCITY merch store with a $25 minimum. If you pick correctly, then you get a gift card to the merch store for the same amount as the original order. You must click the link in the chat or in our show notes to qualify for the gift card.
All right. Welcome back. You want to let's get to the super chats here from the
I'm shocked.
It's the pump it up.
Who
segment.
could it be?
Pump it up segment of the day, man. Pump it up. Brian Pumper says
we need to get Bree like some kind of something to play, like an audio
like
cue.
Joe Budden, pump it up.
Brian Pumper segment of the show.
Yeah. So the theme this year is collecting 6'4" and below guards, huh? Last year, we were collecting 30-year-olds. OKC is no comparison. We have a ball stopping.
I don't know what this is referring to that we're collecting. Who is advocating for collecting shorter guards? It literally is my personal brand on this show. No people smaller than me on the team.
This is a VJ thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And VJ, who's again 6'5" in shoes.
Yeah, 6'5".
Yeah.
Here's the right move. Draft Ace at 3.
This is the second one from
this is also B Pump. It's the B Pump, pump it up segment. Take Adu. How do you say his last name?
Tiero?
Tiero?
I'd say Tiero, but
Adu Tiero at 35.
Bless you.
Thank you. And if you want the VJ role player type, you draft his pro comp, DSJ.
Oh my God.
A+++ off season.
Didn't he work out for the Sixers?
He did.
That was the report,
according to Keith Pompey over the weekend. Dennis Smith Jr. He also had a workout
with Dallas.
Right?
Yep.
So he's making the rounds right now.
The veteran mini camp that he
who
had
is,
going on.
by the way, significantly shorter than 6'5".
Correct.
Not sure how that makes him a Dennis Smith Jr. comp.
I still stand with Dennis Smith Jr.
I know you do, buddy.
All these years later.
That's why I texted you over the weekend. I'm like, do we need to do an emergency pod, Devon?
All these years later, man. I still stand with Dennis Smith Jr. Quick overtime lets you know, everybody, thank you on the television side that we're going to hang out at allphly.com for the remainder of the show. So if you want to head on over, please do. Come check us out at allphly.com to close things out here. Thank you again on the Fast Channel for hanging out with us.
Look at that.
Dennis Smith Jr., 6 foot 0.5 inches without shoes. Yeah, that's a great VJ comp. Nailed it.
Got another super chat from the great Bogus.
The Bogus.
I can't tell what that avatar is.
I'm trying to
I
look.
guess that's the Bogus if I had to guess. But
been a
great
minute.
Bogus asks, it's been a minute since I caught a stream.
Good to see you.
If you guys had to pick between keeping Walker or Oubre, who are you taking? I mean, Oubre's the better player.
Yeah, I stick with Oubre.
There's financial considerations with Oubre. to me, depends on if Oubre opts out and what he wants to come back. But if you're just talking like Oubre's player option, picks it up, yeah, Oubre is way more valuable.
Yeah, better player. I don't want to sign Kelly Oubre to a long-term deal.
No.
I would say that. I'm fine with the player option, and either he plays the season out or you trade him at the deadline, whatever. But no long-term deals, please.
No. Looks like Super
Thank you for the
Bogus.
question, Great Bogus.
Still trying to figure out that.
Yeah, it looks like it was some sort of exercise equipment. That
I thought it was a helicopter with a face on it. But
Yeah, it looked like a cat or a dog on a helicopter.
okay.
That's what it was? Okay.
Need a little bit of explanation on that.
Yeah.
But thank you for the super chat.
Thank you for
friend.
the super chat. Any more questions you guys want to get to before we get out of
I
here?
could see helicopter.
You see a
I'm
helicopter?
sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Bree and Kyle said helicopter. We go with the helicopter. Any more questions, Bree, you want to get to, or you just let's
We're all out.
We're all
We
out.
have a couple more, but up to you
Got
guys.
nothing going on.
We could throw one in.
One more from Dr. Philly. When do you think they will reasonably know what to expect from Embiid this season?
Never.
Camp?
I think you'll be holding your breath every day of the season.
And his contract.
Yeah.
I just, and I don't
Helicopter
think we're
cat.
trying to fearmonger.
Great
No.
Bogus.
Helicopter cat.
Good
There
call.
we go. Thank you, Great Bogus.
Thank you.
And by the way, if they express optimism, they expressed a lot last year at Camp 2, and he didn't play for a month.
We're well past the time frame that
Yeah.
they gave us
Listen.
after the surgery.
And that's why we're getting these questions, and people are like, well, it's been, was it 8 weeks now? Something like that since he had the surgery in that territory, at least.
Definitely 6.
Yeah, it's 6+. I know
Yeah.
that. I just don't
No,
remember
I think
if
we're
it's-
past 8. I think we're past 8.
It's
I think we're 8
some-
to
yeah.
9. Yeah.
You're not getting an update.
Yeah.
You will get an update when we have the draft press conference
Right,
and
when we can
someone
ask
asks
Daryl
what the
directly.
hell is going on with Joel Embiid.
They'll be like, oh, he's progressing well. There's your update.
Yeah, there's no formal update. There's nothing that's going to happen that's not in a press conference.
If you have been watching this team for the last decade and specifically watching how they treat Joel Embiid injuries and expecting them to say like it's an 8-week timeline and expecting an update in 8 weeks, I don't know which team you're watching. That's not how they operate.
It's special. and look, some of it is also Joel doesn't want his injuries talked about. And
Sure.
that's the,
Well, and also this was a very minimally invasive procedure where like unless he lost a leg, it's probably going well, but it also probably doesn't really tell you anything.
yeah. I will just repeat what we've said on this show. This is not a surgery that was, hey, you go in there and he's got a new meniscus and he's got the knees, like the problems that he is dealing with or dealt with this past season, by and large, are things he's going to have to deal with moving forward. This was not a surgery where they went in with the intent to, hey, Joel's knee, we're good over here. He's healthy for the next 7 years and we get to ride off into the sunset together. We see if it helps him a little bit, but the same underlying problems are there.
We did get a sighting, Joel.
In the AI montage.
There you go. Yep.
I do have to clarify these days. The Allen Iverson montage
The Allen Iverson montage.
is a nice 50th birthday gift to Allen Iverson, seeing some current former.
Oh man. In 3 years, with the way AI is progressing, you will have just absolutely fire Ben Simmons shooting videos. It won't actually be Ben Simmons, but he'll look great.
Yes, he will. He's a free agent this summer. We'll see about that.
Bring him back.
No!
I want to see Kyle's head
I
explode.
was just talking more of watching and finding out what actually happens with him, not
Bring
here.
him
Do
back.
I need to pull up that
Bring
video
back
of
Ben.
him getting announced at Chinese Heritage Night in Brooklyn? See, Mosa? That's like how they said it on the. It's so it kills me every time because it's like, look, don't begrudge him. I am curious to your point of
That was
where
all I was
he-
saying. Yep.
Where he ultimately ends up.
Yes.
I do I think
And what they offer him.
He
and
was-
accepts. What he accepts. Excuse me.
if he's willing to play at a low number, I certainly think he was okay enough with the Clippers that a team would say, yeah, we'll give him the minimum. It's just a matter of, is he taking the minimum?
Right.
It's different as a, you're a buyout guy or whatever. Like, yeah, I'll take it the rest of the year. once you're in free agency, is he?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
On a related note, if that happens, we might have an opening for a PHLY Sixers
You're
host.
just invited,
Kyle,
like you doing that just guarantees that they will take the prospect at 3 that you hate the most, and the people in the chat will be awful to you every day, which means they'll be awful to me because I somehow have absorbed your opinions on all this stuff.
You dared to rank him 4th.
Which is just, he might be even lower now, but
his personality just doesn't say go back to Philadelphia by choice.
He has made some quotes where he's like, "Oh yeah, I really loved it there." It's like, all right, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it still doesn't mean by choice I'm going back to Philadelphia in a different role from where I was before. Yeah.
The head explosion summer is Ace at 3, sign and trade Kuminga, and Ben Simmons minimum deal. That's the ultimate
reevaluate some life choices here.
Oh,
yeah, that's Kyle goes on vacation and never comes home. I'm covering the team remotely from Siberia.
Oh man! Well, maybe we can sign him up to do a show with us in the summer.
A KGB prison in Russia.
He'll be our weekly guest, Ben Simmons. That'll make it even better. That'll be fun. All right, folks, we're gonna get ready to say goodbye for our Monday. We'll be back tomorrow, of course, at 3 p.m. But it's time for the world famous, as always. It's the roll call.
All right, everybody. Good to see you all again.
Love to see everybody here.
Love to see you all.
Even a flying cat in a helicopter. We
did, man. It was. We had all types in here today. Who was that? General.
What was
something
it?
Gabbis.
Great
Bogus. I made up a completely different.
What up, Great Bogus?
How did I forget that in the span of 10 minminutes? You could tell them off
Great
my
Bogus
game
with
with
the
roll call.
with the airplane.
The helicopter.
No, we're just making it up.
Thank you, everybody, including INS, Mellow 3 Point.
Mellow, my man.
Philly 0024, who says Ben will enjoy Taiwan next year. Hedfa, Martian Lynch, Densley.
What up, Densley?
Densley, one of the card-carrying members of the Ace fan club, checking in. What's up to Densley?
What up, Densley?
Jay of the Jungle.
Jay.
JS, Duck Holiday.
Densley says, Ace, please.
Corey Morris, who says, the more I watch Trey, he can be great. Only 19, all-around game with a bunch of 100 emojis.
Again, and look, if I've been dropping hints that I'm pretty in on Trey.
This might be a Trey.
But the only 19 is my favorite part. They're all 18 or 19, as you mentioned every time.
Mom's grandchildren, what's up to Mom? I Gavini, Brian Knight.
What up, B Knight?
SB Cole. Who else?
SB.
Sal.
Hey, Sal.
Jesse Bond. My girl Winona, obviously.
Hey, Nona.
B Pump.
Pump it up.
He of the Pump It Up segment of the show. Music Lover 31. Darkness!
Turn the lights down.
Is in the building. We got Marcus Blackstock. Better Call B-Ball Paul. Old Dirty Yams. Smy Guy. That's probably.
Smy Guy?
And of course, I'll give one more shout out to the Great Bogus for
Great Bogus.
Several minutes of debate about what the avatar was.
The Great Bogus.
The Great Bogus sounds like a magician, I think.
Jay the Jungle says trade day.
Honestly, what's the name of the magician from Seinfeld? I'm gonna look that up real quick while I'm saying this. Guys, thank you everyone for being here today. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. And hit the thumbs up button to say thank you to super producer Bree, as well as helping us out in the algorithm. We will be back tomorrow, Tuesday, at 3 o'clock, as we will be the rest of the week. I believe we will have a special guest on tomorrow's show.
Pumping it up.
Hey, Pump, you may not like this guest. This guest is going to talk about someone in this class that you've had a lot of thoughts about. They might have some intimate experience with said person. You'll have to stay tuned and find out. But we're excited for this guest. We're excited to see you guys once again. Until then, take care. Have a nice day.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.